This is one of the most important videos I've made so far. I'll explain the mistakes almost every player makes. Don't think you're different because almost every player makes the same mistakes. Firstly, according to YouTube, 99.5% of my viewers are male, so I'll add the occasional video to help hold your attention. Look with your eyes but listen to what's being said. And please, don't use this video for anything other than learning about roulette. It would just be weird, especially with my voice playing. I also apologise to female viewers, unless you like that kind of thing, in which case you can reach me through my website. Don't tell me I'm being sexist, I'm just catering to my audience. Besides, I promise to add something that's more your taste in the correct proportion to viewers. Again, I'll explain the mistakes almost every player makes, and I'll explain exactly how you can verify the facts for yourself. This includes how you can do the testing yourself. If you find the truth offensive, or if you believe in unicorns and fairies, this video isn't for you. There's a lot to explain, so it needs to be in multiple videos. It's so you stop wasting time reinventing the wheel, because life is short, and you don't want to waste time beating off a dead horse. Or is it beating a dead horse? I don't know. Anyway, if you have time to waste repeating the same mistakes, I'm happy for you. This video is for people who don't want to mess around and want to focus on proving winning roulette strategies. If that's you, subscribe to the channel and watch the whole series. Click the bell icon to be notified of new videos. I know I might sound like I'm waffling on, but actually it's very important for you to understand. And again, almost every player still makes these mistakes. If you're new to my series, here's some background information about me. I've been a roulette player for over 20 years, and I manage the largest roulette teams anywhere. I know what I'm talking about. But what's important is the message I'm trying to convey. What I teach is very different to the garbage you'll find elsewhere. I explain the real truth about roulette strategies. When we're clueless about something, we don't know we're clueless. Most roulette players don't think they're clueless. They think they're different. They think they know what they're doing. But unless you're already winning hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, you might be deluding yourself. So you should probably pay close attention. I don't want to come across as arrogant or like I think I know it all. I know I will never know everything. On some level, we are all clueless. As I explained in other videos, it took me personally about 5 years to properly understand my mistakes. So I was on the other side for a long time. Looking back now, I wish someone would have slapped me around a bit. I should probably elaborate on that. I mean to say see reality, to save years of messing around losing. You have the chance to do this now and avoid wasting time like I did. But I know even if I watched this video 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have listened. My head was too far up there, and that's where most players are right now. You don't need to use the systems I personally prefer. Most people don't have the right mindset for them anyway. But whatever system you do use, it can't make the same mistakes I'll explain here. Roulette has been around for hundreds of years. Gambling has been around for thousands of years, probably longer. The chances are that anything you've thought of has been tried before. Something might be new and shiny to you, but in reality, it's probably old and useless. Still, there are always new discoveries to make. We should never stop looking. On this note, especially in future videos, I'll explain what I think are the most promising principles to test for new systems. Anyway, I'm just saying don't repeat the same mistakes. Even if you've been playing for years, you're probably making the same mistakes. You might consider yourself an experienced roulette player. But the reality might be you're just someone who's been gambling a long time. There's a big difference. How do you know? Well, if you've been making hundreds of thousands of dollars per year for years, you could probably call yourself a professional player. That is, unless you play high stakes and only play a few times per month. In this case, your profits could still easily be luck. Remember that even random bets are sometimes profitable. Even random bets can profit over 10,000 spins. That's more spins than most people play in their lifetime. Here's a video of 100,000 spins being played with a losing system. The system is essentially random bets and increasing bet size after losses. So it's just like most losing systems. Most of the time it loses, but sometimes it profits. When it profits, it doesn't mean the system worked. It just means the winning number happened to include the numbers you bet on the spins you played. I call it the illusion of a winning system, but I'll explain more about that later. Testing of this system was done with automated software called Roulette Extreme. It's a great program every roulette player should have. You can very easily test your systems and theories before risking real money. The only problem is it's generally unsuitable for testing professional roulette systems called advantage play. You can still do a lot with the software. Most importantly, you can learn a lot about what doesn't work. Again, it saves you a lot of time. The video is long, so I'll speed it up to the end. 100,000 spins were tested, but when someone shows you how great their system is, they'll probably only show part of the test, like this. It's only a winning segment of spins, so it looks great. It looks like the system worked. But look at the bigger picture and clearly it doesn't work. Like almost every system, this one uses elaborate logic to determine where to bet next. It has absolutely no effect on how frequently wins occur. In this chart showing 100,000 spins, you can see the vertical lines that separate each 10,000 spins. There are 10 groups of 10,000 spins, because we have 100,000 spins in total. Now carefully check the bankroll at the beginning of each 10,000 spins. Then check the bankroll at the end of each 10,000 spins. You'll notice in some groups of 10,000 spins we profit, and in others we lose. It isn't important how many times we won or lost. You might call this the win rate. But how often you win is irrelevant. You could win even 90% of the time, but what really matters is the end result. For example, imagine playing 10 different days. On 90% of the days, you might win $1,000. That's a profit of $9,000. But in 10% of the days, you lose $10,000. The win rate of 90% sounds great, but again the combined result is what matters. And the combined result in this case is a loss of $1,000. So forget about win rates, they are meaningless. So if you haven't already made hundreds of thousands of dollars with your system, why not? Again, if you really want to profit from roulette, it makes sense to learn what others have tried, so you know what others already found does or doesn't work. Then you'd save a lot of time. And that's what this video is about, saving you time and probably a lot of money. Then you can focus on roulette strategies that work before casinos change and roulette becomes harder to beat. If that happens, you will have missed your window, because for now, roulette is actually quite easy to beat, but only with the right approaches. Again, I probably sound like I'm waffling on, but your state of mind is very important to your success. You need to understand your perceptions of reality are very often wrong. Most people don't like being told they're wrong. Everyone likes to think they have a good handle on reality. Especially people who have played roulette for years think they're experienced. Some even call themselves veterans. But usually they still don't even understand the basics and have overall lost money. At best, maybe they've overall won money, but still played less than 10,000 spins in their life. Again, don't think you're different. I see hundreds of people every day on forums and in emails who all think they're onto a potentially good roulette system, but they repeat the same mistakes. This video is partly for them, but people usually see only what they want. They prefer fairy tales. So most of what I'll say here will fall on deaf ears. I've been trying to wake some people up on my forum for years, with crystal clear proof. I mean the truth and verifiable fact is slapping them in the face. It's teabagging them, and they still don't get it. Some of them even think the actual truth is part of a conspiracy to hide winning systems. It's delusion. I see it all the time on my forums. I don't expect this video will change them. These kind of players probably already stopped watching anyway. So this video is mostly for rational people who want to learn. Never believe something just because someone said it. Always verify facts for yourself. When I say facts, I mean things like tests of billions of spins from statisticians, mathematicians, and other professionals in the gaming industry. But more importantly, I'll explain how you can verify these facts for yourself. Anyway, that's enough of an introduction. Yep, that was the introduction. There's a lot more to explain, and again, it needs to be in several different videos, so keep your hands on the desk and pay attention. To summarize previous videos, all gambling games are odd versus payout. The odds are your chance of winning any bet, and the payout is what you're paid when you win. The casino profits because they pay unfair amounts even when you win. So the only way to consistently win at roulette and any casino game is by increasing the accuracy of your predictions. This means your system must win more frequently than random bets. This is the only real win rate that matters. Because if your bets have the same win rate as random, you've changed nothing. It sounds simple, and it is. But players get stuck on the delusions like patterns they think they see but don't really exist. There are too many mistakes for me to explain in one video, so I'll explain more of the mistakes in future videos, as I said before. But first, we'll start with the most common mistakes. When creating roulette systems, most players repeat a particular cycle. First, they start with an idea. It seems unique, like nobody probably thought of it before. But the idea is probably very old. It's probably the same rubbish, just repackaged. But they probably don't understand why. So you begin testing. If tests go bad and you lose, you probably just scrap the idea and think of something different. But if tests are good and you profit, you might think your system works. You might think you're onto something good. Here's the problem. Let's say 1,000 players throughout the world use your awesome new system. There will be both winners and losers. But if your system was completely ineffective, most would be losers. Let's say 400 players win and 600 players lose. The 600 players just go back to the drawing board, but the 400 winners think they've finally got a system that works. They think they've finally beaten Roulette. The reality is the system probably never worked. Remember that even random bets sometimes win. So now, forget about the 600 players who lost. They've moved on. The remaining 400 players then continue to play for about a week. At the end of a week, half of the 400 players have lost, and the other half continue to win. So this leaves 200 players who are still winning. Over time, fewer and fewer players are winning, even with the same system. After a whole year, there's maybe one player who's still winning with the same system. They think they're a roulette master. They won't let anyone tell them otherwise. After all, they've got the money to prove it, so who can argue? That's exactly the situation I was in. I won for about a year straight and thought my system was awesome. But I eventually lost all my winnings and probably more. My first thought was the casino must have changed something to make me lose. The reality was my system was just the same as random bets, but I only saw that after proper testing. And that's how most systems end. It's the same cycle for every inexperienced player. You quickly forget about systems when you lose with them, but if you win at the start, you'll become lost in the illusion of a winning system. It's a very persistent illusion. It makes you think your system works. Now let's say your system initially worked, but then started to lose. We've all been in this situation. You might then think the system just needs refining. Maybe you need to tweak some rule or make some final improvements. But it goes nowhere. The modified system might win for a bit, then lose, or it might lose from the start. In this case, you're just repeating the same cycle, thinking the system is new and better. But in fact, the system is just the same repackaged crap. It still has a win rate, or bet accuracy, no better than random bets. So your system changed nothing. I know what some of you might be thinking, that some new system you have seems to win more frequently than random bets. After all, the system follows patterns you think you see. But even a streak of reds or blacks looks like a pattern. It's just normal random behaviour. Most players understand this when it comes to simple reds and blacks. But when more complicated patterns are involved, the same logic goes out the window. Like for example, the law of a third, which is misunderstood normal random behaviour of numbers. It's as useless as knowing betting one number averages 1 win per 37 spins. In reality, almost every pattern you think you see only exists in your head. There are some real patterns, but most are an illusion. So if you think your system uses some awesome new pattern you discovered and testing so far is good, you're probably just at the first stage I've explained. And if you repeat the cycle, eventually you'll lose and go back to the start. Keep playing and find out. So the key point here is a few wins are meaningless. Even random bets often win, especially if you use progression, where you increase bets after losses. With progression, you'll win most of the time, so you'll think your system works. But when you lose, you'll give back your winnings and probably more. Look at it this way. Beating progression is like a loan. Eventually you must pay it back with interest. You can't possibly know when you'll need to pay it all back. Remember, if your system doesn't work, your bets are as good as random. I'll explain more about betting progressions in the next point. Betting progression is where you change the size of the bets after wins or losses. The most common type is called positive progression. This is where you increase the size of the bets after losses. Then hopefully you win back losses and maybe more. You might think progression helps you win, but here's what almost every player doesn't understand. If your system's bet selection isn't better than random bets, betting progression is useless. And I'm sounding like a stuck record because people still don't understand it. Progression does not increase your chances of winning. It only changes the amount you risk on the next spin. Every spin is independent. The past spins are in the past. In the way that most systems assume, the past spins have no effect on future spins. You probably heard people say this before, but maybe you don't properly understand it. So I'll give an example. Let's say there were 3 players at a table. On the first spin, the first player bets $10 on green 0. He has a 1 in 37 chance of winning. Let's say he loses. Then the second player, on the second spin, bets $20 on green 0. He also has a 1 in 37 chance of winning. Then he also loses. Now on the third spin, the third player bets $40 on green 0. Like the other players, he also has a 1 in 37 chance of winning. But let's say he won. So what actually happened? On each of the 3 spins, there was a 1 in 37 chance of winning for the European wheel. The only difference on each spin was the amount bet, and the amount bet does not and cannot change the odds of winning. It will always be 1 in 37. Also, the payout for the wins never changed. It was always 35 to 1 on a win. Now let's say the same 3 bets were made by a single player on the 3 different spins. How is this different? It isn't. My point is progression bets change nothing except the amount you risk on the next spin. Each spin is independent and has the same risks versus reward. The same odds versus payout. It's not hard to understand the basics of this principle. Most players understand it to some degree, but they don't apply the same principles with their own systems. especially when their system uses more elaborate methods that determine when to bet next. It's initially hard to get your head around it, to properly understand it, because you get stuck on thoughts like, well, if I keep increasing my bets, eventually I'm going to win. That may be the case, but you're forgetting your bankroll is limited, and you can't keep increasing your bets forever. Also, the table has a maximum bet limit, so even if you had an unlimited bankroll, your bet size is limited. The key point here is no matter how elaborate your system might be, it's probably still winning at the same rate of random bets. If your system bets just one number, then you'd be stuck averaging a 1 in 37 win rate, and progression won't change anything. It would just be different size bets on a different spin, with each spin offering unfair payouts, even if you do win. So betting progressions change nothing. Take a look at this image of a bankroll trend. It drives me nuts when someone posts an image like this on my forum. They say, look, my system worked. But all that's happened is they kept increasing their bets after losses and got lucky that time. Let's say the system bet on a single number. In this case, they'd have a 1 in 37 chance of winning back losses and a 36 in 37 chance of going broke. So the chances are you're going to go broke. You'll only save your bankroll 1 in 37 times this happens. The principles apply with all types of bets, not just single numbers. And there's no combination of bets that will change this, because each bet is an independent bet on an independent event, each with unfair payouts. So with a betting progression, you can either get lucky and win big, or you can lose even more. Underneath it all, it's nothing more than different size bets on different spins, no matter how elaborate your system is. It's much the same with money management strategies, like where you quit for the day after reaching your target profit. Walking away while you're up is generally a good idea, but it does not in any way contribute to a winning roulette system. I mean a system that you can earn a living from. Remember, if your system hasn't increased the accuracy of predictions, it's the same as random bets. And if you leave for the day after your bankroll is up, you might be missing out on some huge wins. Then you'd be kicking yourself for stopping. Or you might be avoiding a losing streak. Which will it be? You don't know. Again, it's all random. So progression bets change nothing except the amount you risk on independent spins. And money management doesn't change the effectiveness of a system. At best, leaving while your chips are up is just smarter for gamblers. But if your system really worked, then you generally only stop playing if your wins became too obvious to casino staff. So far, I've explained some very basic principles. Most players will find it boring, like it teaches them nothing new. But they'll probably close the video and continue working on a system that makes the same mistakes. That's just how it is. But I hope at least some people learn something new. Again, I'm not saying systems don't work. There are some very promising approaches that have barely been tested. These are the methods that players should focus on developing, instead of repeating the same mistakes. I'll explain more about them later. The videos in this series will gradually cover more advanced areas. But if you just want to get started on roulette systems that have already proven effective, there's lots of information on my websites. These systems are called Advantage Play. There's several of them, and all except one are completely legal everywhere because they don't use hidden electronics. Anyway, this video is already too long, so I'll wind it up for now. I'll publish the next video soon. If you'd like to be notified, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon.